Hello, 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 people. So, have you ever wondered what lodging options you should be choosing from? Especially as we look ahead at 2025. Well, guess what? We're going to talk about the top five lodging options of 2025. And the goal there is so that we can see what are the best options that not only match your wallet, got you covered there, your vibe, and your 2025 travel goals. So stay tuned while we jump right in. But before we do, I want to welcome you all to Block's Home Exchange channel. Here, we are really just focused on helping people live a bleisure lifestyle. I'm the founder, I am Samela, and I absolutely believe that bleisure living is something that we all deserve. And with Block, we want you to be able to live, work, and play anywhere you want for as long as you want, affordably. So, what we're going to do in this video is we're going to share gems, tools, and best practices to empower creative entrepreneurs who are seeking to plan their 2025 travels, allowing them to see which lodging option is their best. As mentioned before, we're going to cover 5 different ones, but we're going to take a deeper dive into 3 of them. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. There are 5 different options for lodging, and we're going to dig into them. The first one is glamping. Yes, you heard me right. Glamping. The second is hostels. The third is short-term rental. Sounds familiar? Maybe, maybe not. The fourth is home exchange. And then the fifth is hotels, which is the most traditional route. But let's go into each one of them one by one, and let's break down what it's about and, explore what the pros and the cons are. So, glamping, you can think of this as glamorous camping, just as it sounds, right? It's an upgraded version of what camping would look like. So this is generally very luxurious tents, potentially container communities, tiny homes, possibly, very comfortable beds. It's usually in a beautiful scenic area that is like outside of rural areas and outside of cities. These prices, these glamping options can be priced equally as much as a traditional lodging, but the point there is that you are having this outdoorsy experience with the luxury spin. Would you go glamping? I will. And actually, I want to. It's on my list of things to do. I haven't made it down, so I can't even suggest places yet because I haven't made it that far. But glamping is absolutely something that I want to be able to experience as I look ahead at 2025. Hostels. Okay. Hostels are more like dorm style accommodations. And so think about it as like bunk beds or like shared areas, but it's very budget friendly, and it's kind of like backpackers, right? Like you can think of a backpacker who's traveling around the world and they just need a place to stay, not necessarily for hanging out there, but to lay their head in a safe, clean space. It's very, very, very community focused, which is always a plus, right? Because now you get to interact with other like-minded people. And they generally have like the dorm style, i.e. the bunk beds or the private rooms or like 2 beds in 1 room. And this is becoming very popular, especially as we talk about affordability and budget friendly options. So don't knock it until you tried it. or at least until you researched it. How about that? The third option is short-term rentals. This has taken the world by storm. And we know some of the larger players are the Airbnbs of the world, the VRBOs of the world. And so this is a peer-to-peer shared housing, right? I'm a peer, you're a peer, I rent your home to stay there because you're not there or because you have a spare bedroom, right? So it's peer to peer shared housing, and that could include the entire space, that could include partial space, some shared areas, and the price range depending on the amenities of the home, the location, all those things. And then the style and the consistency also is very different because these are individual people's homes. And so, but that has become extremely popular because most people are seeing it as a way to have more space, experience life like a local, and even group traveling. Actually, that's another reason why it's so awesome. So short-term renting is our number 3 lodging type. And then home exchange. Home exchange is that kind of under the radar, but like secret gem that you didn't know you needed to know about, because it's also peer to peer, right? Person to person, you to me, normal person to normal person. But it's the low cost to no cost version of it, right? So you think short-term rental in terms of I'm staying at your home, you're staying at somebody else's at a rental cost. Home exchange is low cost to no cost, oftentimes no cost, because it's a community. We swap homes in a community with other members, and it's usually rooted in a community trusted exchange, reciprocity type of style. You may remember the movie The Holiday, and it was like made in the 90s actually. Cameron Diaz, I can't think of the other woman name, but it was a really popular movie. And they swapped homes because they were having men problems. And it was London and LA. So a cottage in London, in a little small town, and then a fabulous home in LA, in a busy town. And it was such a great experience. The movie, if you haven't seen it already, you should totally check it out. It helps you understand what home exchange is about. But it also, home exchange, just like short-term rental, allows you to do that full local experience. And so that is a bonus, of course. So that is lodging option number 4. And then the last but not least is the hotels, right? And this is generally service style, staff based lodging, right? That was a lot. Service, staff, lodging options, right? And that can range from limited service to full service, mid-scale to luxury. And this traditional lodging, like you're renting a space, heads and beds, right? Like it's a full business. And these are generally not so peer-to-peer. These are generally like corporations that are in the business of offering accommodations. They generally have restaurants attached to it or some other things that the guests can access that's generally attached to it. They have amenities, pools, gyms, spas, things of that service, in-room dining, valet, right? And so that's the 5th option for lodging. But now that we have all 5 of those options, I want to take a deeper look into 3 options. And we're going to go into hotels, we're going to go into home exchange, and we're going to go into short-term rentals. And let's talk pros and cons, just so we can lay out the full scope of how you should be thinking about traveling as you look toward 2025. So we'll work our way backwards. How about that? So hotels, let's talk pros and cons. So hotel pros are the amenities, right? And that can range depending on the scale of the property. It could be breakfast, it could be a restaurant, it could be breakfast in bed. The consistency of service. Usually hotels train their team. They have hired staff and they act a certain way. They show up a certain way. They offer certain amenities. So that consistency of service is always going to be there. And even if it's not, you have a source to take, like to give the feedback to. The third thing is the hands-on staff, right? Like, so being able to talk to an actual person who is in the business of servicing you, and their whole job is to make sure that your stay is well. So we have those three pros for hotels. Of course, you can't argue with that at all. But let's talk cons for the hotels. They can be pricey, right? They set their own price, which is what they call ADR, average daily rate. And this is generally set based on the other hotels in the area, the other lodging options in the area, the amenities that they offer, the location. There's several factors that affect the price of a hotel. So that is a thing. Another con is lack of space. Generally, when you are staying in a hotel, you are renting a room, which is a little smaller than a studio apartment, right? You don't have like the kitchen and like the refrigerator, but you have the bathroom, the bedding area, generally like an office space or a desk area, a closet. And so it doesn't have as much space. And the last con is less local immersion, right? Like you're not as feeling the neighborhood vibes because you are at a hotel and it's a business, right? So now that we understand the pros and the cons, is hotel your choice? Don't choose too soon. Let's look at the other options. So short-term renting, let's jump into that. Remember, this is peer-to-peer home sharing. And let's talk about the pros for short-term rental. It's group friendly, right? So you can rent the entire home. And now instead of you and your friends having two rooms and potentially not being on the same floor, you guys can live in the same house, right? Like stay at the same house, cook breakfast together, have dinner together, cook your own meals, right? It's a group friendly experience. Which then gives you more space, right? So if you have the whole place, you now have a pool to yourself, you have the grill to yourself, you have parking spaces, you probably have outdoor space, right? You have a rooftop. So that's a beautiful perk, more space. And then you definitely get the local homey feel because you're experiencing the way that that peer or that individual who's in the business of renting out their home, whether it's their personal home or their second home, you get to feel their energy in the space, how they decorate it, right? And everybody home is decorated differently. And then you get to walk around like a local, right? You're leaving out of an apartment and you're going to experience the local area. So that's a beautiful thing that short-term rental offers you. But let's talk the cons of short-term rental. There's oftentimes, and we've all seen this, and it's one of the sadder things that we, have witnessed, is the hidden cost or the expensive fees that individuals have begun to add on, whether it's housekeeping, whether it's like, oh, you broke this plate, or you smoked in my house, or you have six people and the house was only for five people, so I'm gonna charge you an extra $25 a night for the extra person, you know. So it can get costly, it can add up. The individual cleanliness. Ooh, this is important because unlike hotels, which hire housekeeping staff, individual cleanliness is perspective. And so the person might think that their home is clean because you can't physically see something, but you might be a neat freak or vice versa, right? And they also make up their own rules, right? Like, know this, do this, house rules this, right? So you do have to follow that individual person's rules, which can be a con if that person has a laundry list of rules. I've seen in state at, which is the wildest thing, like Airbnbs where people are like, strip the bed of the sheets, put the dishes in the dishwasher, take out the line. Like, I'm sorry, are we working? Are we a partner? Are we working together on this? You know, it takes out the hospitality part of it. And then the last thing is, unfortunately, now cities are facing regulatory challenges around short-term rentals. And unfortunately, that has caused a lot of challenges for the peers who's renting the place. It's caused a lot of challenges for um, the guests who may not even know that that city has regulations, right? And it makes things a little bit more sticky, and so it can be looked at as a more recent con around short-term renting. Okay, so we went through two, which was the hotels and the short-term rental. And now let's talk about home exchange. Home exchange, remember, is also peer-to-peer, but it's low cost to no cost. So the pros of home exchange is what I just mentioned, the no cost to low cost options, right? And so generally when you are home exchanging, you're part of a community that has members, in Block's case, neighbors, right? And you're swapping homes with neighbors. Um, that is the third point of a pro is trusted based community, right? So not only are they taking a risk because their home is also listed as home exchange as well as your home, that's trust in itself. It's community as well, right? Because it's almost as if um, you know this person because you guys are in the same community, have same like-minded things. And so the third thing is, which is super cool, and I think it's underrated and most people don't really think about this, but because you are a neighbor, because you are a member, and you're staying at someone else's home, it's almost like you have a friend in every city that you travel to, right? So imagine if you were coming to Brooklyn and you were staying at my home. I'm going to tell you a few things about the neighborhood. So now you're coming into it with like these new um, little gems that I was able to give you. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm staying in my friend Samella's place, right? So that is an underrated perk of home exchange when you're part of a community. Now, the cons of home exchange, let's talk about that. It does require you to plan ahead, right? Because unlike Airbnbs and short-term rentals, I'm sorry, and hotels, you do have to like pre-arrange this, right? You're not just popping up at someone's home like, hey, I'm coming to stay here. It was listed online. More than likely, you don't even have the information until you actually confirm. So you do have to plan ahead when you are home exchanging. Um, and it's a shared personal space, so that could be looked at as another con, even though short-term renting also has that same scope, and short-term rentals has proven that we do live in an economy now that people are more willing to share spaces and places, but that could be absolutely a con because you're sharing your personal home with someone else. And then the third con for home exchange is fewer amenities, right? Unlike hotels, and even potentially short-term rentals, you may not have amenities, access to amenities, and it's not because they don't allow you to use them, but because it's a little bit more low maintenance, not necessarily around the decor or the way in which they present their home, because people do take pride in how they live and how their home is decorated, but it may not just have all of the bells and whistles that you would get if you were staying at a hotel. So, what's your choice? If you were trying to plan your upcoming 2025 vacations, what would you choose? Option one, hotels. Option two, short-term rentals. Or option three, home exchange. We know our answer, but what is your answer? And so, if you've been watching to this point, I just want to first of all thank you for tuning in. We are a very new startup, and we are wanting to empower people to begin to understand the beautiful, underrated power of home exchanging. And we wanted to help you think through your decision making process, right? Home exchange is not for everyone. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Whether it be you don't have a home to exchange, whether it be you don't like staying in people's personal space or you don't like them in your space, whether it be you just like the idea of service, in-room dining to the bed while you're watching a movie, never hurt anybody. But there is this thing called Uber Eats and Postmates, so that's a story for another day. But let us know. Drop a note down below to let me know what your number one choice is. Put them in. Actually, tell us the order in which you would do it. 1, hotels. 2, short-term rental. 3, home exchange. We would love to hear your take on it, and we would love to know why. But as we mentioned before, of course, home exchange is our winner, and it's mostly because it's sustainable, it's affordable, you have a friend in every city, and you get this authentic local experience, right? And we believe that home exchange is the new way to travel. So as you begin to plan your trip, join Glock. We would love to have you. We have space for you to join our community and become a neighbor. And we look forward to welcoming you. And if you're a creative entrepreneur, if you're a remote worker, or simply someone who values work-life balance and believe that you deserve to live leisurely, take your laptop with you. You can work from anywhere. That rooftop in Manhattan or that oceanfront in Miami, pull up. We can't wait to see you, and we will be dropping more valuable content like this as we help you all understand what home exchange is about, help you all understand more about the lodging industry, and help you all live more leisurely. In the meantime and in between time, have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. Bye-bye. Hope to see you soon, neighbor.